Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Leadership in Politics with Dr. Abraham. On the show today, I have special guests. These are my friends, my colleagues, through the Mentorship Program with the University of Redlands. I know them for almost 10 years, and it's my great pleasure to welcome them all to the show. And here they are, Tommy Halls, James, and Dr. Sean. Welcome to all of you. I'll start with Dr. Sean. Dr. Sean, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dr. Abe. Glad to be here. Very glad to be here. We appreciate you bringing us on board, and it's a very relevant topic right now.
Wonderful. The topic we're going to talk about today, we are all in the mentorship program with the University of Redlands. So we're going to talk about mentoring within the uncertain times and difficult times, what we do and how we can help others. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Abe. How are you?
Very good. Nice to see all of you, as a matter of fact. And we connected through the years. We were such a good buddies. And I have still photos with you. I have photos framed together. And now look at us. We in this mode of Zoom and talking through this distance. It's a good thing. But let's make the most of it. See how we can help others and tell others about... because we were an exclusive club for the students of the University of Redlands. Now we go for everybody and tell them the quality that we provide at that level. Welcome, James.
Thank you.
Tommy, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Abe. It's good to see you again. Good to see everybody. Good to be back with the mentoring group here.
Welcome. We can go back to Dr. Sean and ask, what is a mentor? When you say, oh, we are good mentors, you were a mentor of the year. You were James was nominated, and Tommy, I know, is in the way. But you were a mentor of the year, and you've been there. So what is a mentor?
So, mentoring is one of those elusive words. I can only speak for myself, and that's just kind of how I am, whether I'm teaching or in this type of environment or speaking with a friend. So for me, in the world of Sean, a mentor could be a friend, could be someone who is in an official capacity, whether it be someone who is even following you or someone who's leading you, because I believe there's influence both ways. So someone that you have a connection with, and someone that you feel comfortable bouncing things off of. And before we got started, Jim brought up a great word, and probably the key word in mentorship is trust. And so it evolves over a period of time, and it's finding someone that you click with, that you can bounce things off of, and that's just kind of how I see it.
Mm-hmm. James, what can you add to it? What does a mentor? First, what can you add to it, and second, what does a mentor do?
Yeah, so I gave this some thought after I saw the prompt for the agenda, and to me, in my experience, now I've been with mentoring at Redlands formally as a mentor and master mentor since 2012, but I've been a supervisor. We used to call it coaching and motivating in my earlier days, but I've been doing it in one fashion or another with people since 1980. So I've been doing this for a long time, but I keep evolving, and I think I started to really refine my tools when I was able to be around the caliber of people with the University of Redlands. That kind of raised the bar to another level. I've had a lot of formal training on this, but that really raised the bar. But for me, a mentor is a person who is motivated to enter in either an informal or formal relationship in order to share their technical expertise, their experience, resources, and other items in their tool set to facilitate the attainment of another person's personal and or professional goals and objectives. Now, the relationship can be time-bound or could be indefinite based upon the desires and aspirations of those involved in that particular mentoring relationship. So that's kind of how I view it.
That's excellent. Since you mentioned your work, and let me take this opportunity to ask you what you do, and then I'll ask Tommy, and then we go back to Sean and ask him about that as well. So what do you do?
Okay, great. Well, I'm kind of into my second career or third career, whatever I word it. But I'm retired military. I was a logistics khaki in the United States Navy. Currently, I'm a division director at a naval headquarters organization, and I'm in charge of all the people, content, processes for two e-business websites. And I'm also in charge of our domestic and international sales and a few other collaterals, but I get to manage most of the business, including with the senior leadership executive team, executing the mission and developing the strategy. I do all of that where I work.
That's wonderful. You have been a good friend to me, and all of you have been good friends together. We clicked, and I love that. Didn't see you for a while, especially the last. I saw you several times on Zooms, but we never really interacted. And especially when you were nominated for the Mentor of the Year. So congratulations on that then and now as well.
Thank you so much for that. I was proud that a Team Duke member came through again. So, so being a little biased on that, but the person that won, honestly, was the right person. And I think I've had 5 conversations with him just to make him believe himself that he deserved it.
Good. In a way, you were also encouraging him, and that's what mentors do, really. Although you were, I was nominated twice before I became a Mentor of the Year. I'm sure, Sean, you were nominated before too, right? Before you became a Mentor of the Year? Or were you a Mentor of the Year right away?
I was Mentor of the Year right away, and then the second year...
You were nominated.
The second year, I was actually standing in for Jim. As a master mentor, and so I'm very happy that the individual that I nominated for Mentor of the Year got Mentor of the Year.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Tommy, let's go to you. So tell me a little bit about your take on mentorship, and as a mentor, how important is the mentor and the role of a mentor in the life of others?
Yeah, I definitely think it's extremely important. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if there wasn't mentors around me that I was able to, tap into and gain some of that experience as knowledge. And then as you kind of grow through life, that knowledge becomes your experience, and then you could share that as well. I really, to what Dr. Sean had mentioned, right, it's such a subjective word, right? I mean, I think it can be defined in a billion different ways, depending on your own personal experience. The way I've seen mentorship as an experience cycle, right? I think as you're young, you're gaining a lot of objective knowledge, and that objective knowledge is extremely important. It guides you, it gives you the right principles, the right virtues and values in which you want to live your life by. And then through time, as you gain experience, it becomes a subjective experience, right? So it goes from objective knowledge into subjective experience. And once you make that transition, now you have a tool that you can share with others. And now that subjective experience becomes your mentoring, right? It becomes the weight of what you're doing with that person. And then it becomes that person's objective knowledge, right? And then it guides them in the right principles. And then as they are living life and gaining those experiences, it becomes their subjective experience. And this cycle continues. And so I really enjoy, participating in mentorship and watching that cycle take place. And I think all of us throughout the years of the mentor program at the University of Redlands, we've been able to see some of those folks that we've had the opportunity to be a mentor for now come into the program as a mentor, and they begin to share their experience. So we see that cycle happen right before us. I see it in my work environment. I see it in my home environment. And it's that cycle, I think, that provides the necessary tools for all of us to, reach whatever goals we have put in place for ourselves.
So what you learned through the University of Redlands plus the mentoring program, and you're a mentor in this regards, do you apply that with Chosen Foods?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the company you work for, right? What do you
Correct.
do there? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I work at Chosen Foods. I'm the vice president of sales, so I manage anything and all things sales related, and I have a wonderful team. And absolutely, I mean, that cycle happens in every aspect of your life, whether you are recognizing it while it's taking place or not. I believe that you're constantly gaining, and what you gain, as you start to experience, it becomes that subjective experience that you can now share with others. And definitely in the workplace, it's super crucial. Especially, you know, the older I get, the more I realize everyone's half my age. And you know, so they're entering into the workforce for the first time, and they're really looking for someone that has that experience that they could tap into. Because I think at the end of the day, you know, most humans want to do the very best at whatever that, you know, they're doing, whatever job that they've been given. I think most people really want to do a good job. And so they're constantly looking for those that they could tap into, ensure that, you know, they're going down the right path, they're gaining all the tools necessary to be successful. And I think that's where mentors could come in.
Excellent. Recently, you joined Forbes Coach Council. Congratulations on that. Also, you're finishing your doctorate, Dr.
Correct,
Tommy.
yeah.
So, Sean, we can call him Dr. Tommy. James, we can call him Dr. Tommy from now on.
Yeah, maybe in another year or so. I'm getting
It's another
close. Getting
Okay.
close.
Are
Yeah.
you
Although
finishing
COVID has kind of slowed things down a little
Of
bit
course,
with
of course.
residencies and whatnot. But
Are you
hopefully we'll get
finishing your PhD or finishing a doctorate?
just my doctorate.
Your
Yeah.
doctorate, which
I'm
is
studying
wonderful.
emotional intelligence right now, specifically emotional labor, and how emotional labor can turn into emotional exhaustion if you don't have the right tools as a leader to
Bravo.
mentor, in this case, employees in the right path on how they manage their emotions, you know, throughout their day, whether in the workplace or at home.
Wonderful. Nice to know that. Dr. Sean, what does a mentor do during uncertainties? What do we do within uncertain times? What's our role, really?
You know, our role is whatever we need it to be
Okay.
with that individual. You know, and it comes with, it kind of tags on to what we were talking about, trust, because as you build trust, the person that you're working with is able to share a little bit more with you. And I can equate it to the students that I work with, because there are certain students that will reach out a little bit more than other students. And then if you're fortunate enough to have a student who goes through one degree program and then sees you again for another degree program, you're able to build up a little bit more rapport as well. And sometimes they need you to, like Tommy said, listen, and to have that empathy. There are others that have thanked me for demanding rigor, increased rigor. So you get both sides, and it's all about, for me, as far as feeling it out, it's developing that type of relationship that starts with that active listening. You know, it goes into, a lot of it parallels Bass's work in transformational leadership. You know, in that when you work with someone, you really do have to develop that relationship and listen. And then if you're active in a mentor relationship, there are some goals that each of you agree upon and you move towards. And it's not to, as a mentor, it's not to necessarily teach them what needs to be done, but encourage them along the way and allow them to grow and allow them to be uncomfortable, because it's in moving outside of their comfort zone that they learn to grow. And it's creating that safe space for them to do that, whether they stumble a little bit or whether they excel in it. You know, creating that safe space within the dynamic that you develop with that individual. So,
did you have to reach to your mentees or clients if you mentor clients, or you waited for them to reach you? What was your approach on it?
well, my approach is to not be reactionary. So, you know, the relationships that I've developed are the same, whether it's fair weather or not. So the consistency in communication is there. It's how how we interact during different periods. COVID is something that is affecting everyone.
Absolutely.
However, even pre-COVID, if there's regular communication there, then either side kind of knows that there's something going on, and we're empathetic, to those types of situations. So with COVID, it's just kind of one overarching with existing relationships. With new relationships, I give the example of my students that I worked with after COVID had started, and students that I worked with, because I had a group that was pre-COVID into COVID. So we met each other in the classroom, and then we moved into this setting. And so I can say that the approach with both of those groups is a little different, because they were able to get to know me in one way. I'm much better in person than I am on screen.
Do you agree, guys? Is that You're good. You're good, Sean. Yeah.
And then post-COVID, we all kind of go in with a different level of expectations because of the environment that we know we're in. Whereas pre-COVID, we have to adapt our expectations. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. It makes sense. I'm going to follow up with this. So you talked about empathy. Before you tell me what you do, because I want to give you the chance to tell the audience what you do. I know what you do, but I want to let the audience know what you do. You talked about empathy. Is empathy important or plays a part in being a mentor?
Oh, empathy is huge.
How?
Huge in every area of our life. The why from me is founded in trust, is founded in developing a connection and a bond, in being supportive and understanding, and doing the right thing for the right reasons. Because in a mentor relationship, it is a leadership relationship, and often we don't realize the impact that our words and our actions have on people. It's far greater than we give ourselves credit for. And one of the areas that I learned that in also was in an international environment, being in a leadership role, working with host nation nationals, is that we really don't understand, we really undervalue how strong our words and our actions are as far as influencing other people. So we have a responsibility to be empathetic.
Oh, I like that. So the responsibility comes not only naturally, but it has to be part of the play. Tell me what you do. Tell us what you do.
Oh, me? I just sit around and I talk to people. No, I get to do what I love, which is creating positive change, one learning group at a time. And I do that with the University of Redlands School of Business in both their graduate and undergraduate program, and the MBA program, and the Masters of Science and Organizational Leadership program. And I just became affiliated with National University with their undergraduate marketing program, facilitating those courses.
You're in the San Diego campus?
So I'm all over Southern California. With National, I've been doing the asynchronous courses. And then we're starting a new program with the San Diego Adult Education Program, where we are going to be making available some of the courses that were previously only available for the San Diego residents. And those will be in the areas of project management and in small business.
Excellent. I want to provide a message to our audience out there. Sean is a mentor in the mentorship program, true, but he is also a professor. James is a mentor, but also a professor. I am a mentor, but also a professor. And Tommy, a mentor, and hopefully after the doctorate, he's going to be a professor with us. The message I want to give to our professors out there: the mentorship program needs you. Our students need you, and people in general need you. So try to put this effort, in addition to your teaching knowledge and expertise, put it into play by actually mentoring someone, and contact the mentorship program. And I don't want the program or the show to be for University of Redlands, but we know it works. The truth is, it works. You've been since 2000, James since 2012. Tommy several years, and you several years. We've been all like a senior and veterans in this program, so we know it works. And what you said is very true, Sean. So thank you for sharing that. James, let's talk about trust.
Yes, it's extremely important in any environment, like we talked about, when you're discussing empathy and trust and building a relationship. They're all intertwined, whether you look at your significant other or students, friends, colleagues. It all starts there. When you're talking about the classroom environment, one thing I always do when I am teaching, and I teach at the Redlands, Temecula, and the San Diego campuses now, graduate and undergraduate. But one thing I do when I teach at Redlands is the first night of class, after we're going around the room, I always tell them that I sat in their chairs as a student, working adult. That's very powerful.
Hold on. You were a student with Redlands as well?
Yes, I was. I went through the MBA program at Redlands.
And Sean, you were a student there too?
Yeah, undergrad as well as grad.
How about you, Tommy?
Just grad.
So we're all students. We're also alumni from the university as well.
Yes.
Because
yes.
I went for my master, my bachelor's. So we have, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I was my class CEO, whatever, and then I was brought into Whitehead, like I'm sure several others on the panel have done. But I always do that. And then another example of building trust, a couple of years ago, I was interviewing candidates for a senior position under me, and a gentleman walked in that was a wounded warrior. And he was very honest and upfront, saying, hey, there's sometimes I need to step out and maybe stay home a day or take sick leave. Is that going to be a problem? Because I've had 2 employers tell me that's a big problem. And the first thing I told him was that how much I appreciated his service to our country. And I said, and you hear this in the debates right now on TV, but I said, it's okay not to be okay every day. I'm a veteran, I get it. So when I said that, he lit up, and I hired him. Knowing that it might be a risk, but I hired him, and he's been a stellar employee, and he will jump through hoops to do anything to help people now, and he's paying forward. He's volunteering at veterans places, helping wounded warriors, and he's mentoring those people. So building trust is so important, but that establishing up front, trying to put yourself in their shoes and making them feel that there's a human connection up front, that's where it all starts.
Tell me about the Swift Trust they were talking about a little bit earlier.
Yes, so the concept of Swift Trust is something it's been around for a while, but I was recently reviewing an article from the new dean of the Wharton School of Business. Her name is Erica James, and Dr. James was talking about the different guardrails of new leaders. I'm a graduate of 2 executive leadership programs, and one thing I was trying to incorporate into mentoring is leading self. We kind of hinted on that in our discussions, but how do you get them to be self-sufficient and then mentor others? It all starts with leading self before you can lead others, and then lead an organization, and then lead society. Those are really the 4 tenets of that. But when we're talking specifically about leading trust, it's just talking about how do you, in uncertain times where you don't have the benefit of developing a face-to-face relationship or relationships within groups or teams, how do you get that done in a remote environment? And so the concept is trying to use tools to garnish swift trust, where a manager may be more apropos or a mentor might be apropos about letting a person go a certain extent without seeing evidence of their experience and accomplishments. The concept of swift trust is that you've got to be able to let some of that go up front. And you do that by spending more time getting to know each other in different manners where it doesn't feel threatening to that person. An example of swift trust, that when you board an airplane and you just automatically have to assume that the FAA and the different airline has done the proper maintenance, the aircraft is fit for flight, the pilot is sober, and everything's going to go well. And then normally there's a host of activities, pre-activities you do, and screenings before you enter in a mentor relationship. I'm just saying now it's okay to let some of that go, maybe let your guardrail down a little bit, and allow that relationship to foster as you're going. And you always have you can always adjust it in the middle of that, and if necessary, maybe you need to refer them to someone else for assistance, but that's the concept of swift trust.
That's nice. That's very nice. Tommy, what do you think? Anything you want to add there?
I agree exactly with what James said with the swift trust, especially with this younger generation. You know, at least in my work environment, that the group of people that are being onboarded are, more educated than any other generation before. So they come with expectations that swift trust will be something that is applied, and they will have some room to, test a lot of the knowledge that they've gained. And when you do that, that really helps to build that trust, which we were talking about as well. So I would agree, just in my work experience, how important that element is when dealing with employees. And, you got to also, remove that guardrail so that they can fail a little bit, right? And that's such a big part of experience. And from a mentoring, standpoint, I think that could be applied across the board with the folks that, come under your mentorship, is to, add some guidance there, but then to let your guard down and allow them to experience some of that knowledge that they've gained. And hopefully, they'll be able to experience it in a way where it becomes, something real to them, and allows them to apply that experience in their daily life. But yeah, everything that James said, I fully agree with. And even that element of empathy that Dr. Sean was talking about, such an important element in relationships in general, specifically in the mentor-mentee relationship as well. And that's really just being able to relate to that person, understanding where that person is currently at, and then, making sure that you are adjusting yourself to be at that level so you can make those connections. I really feel like that's an important part of empathy.
Empathy is part of emotional intelligence, and that's becoming your forte now, your expertise. Yeah. Do you think an emotionally intelligent mentor will make a better mentor?
A little biased because I am pretty passionate about emotional intelligence in general, but absolutely. And mainly because it's the ability to understand yourself emotionally, right? That's really the foundation of emotional intelligence. It really starts within, and you have to understand where you're at emotionally, but then you also have to understand where others are at emotionally. And then hopefully by having that understanding, you're able to make those connections. And that's where emotional intelligence becomes extremely effective. And empathy is a big part of that, a huge part of that, right? I don't think you can make those connections unless there's an exercise of empathy within that interaction. If not, then it's going to be extremely objective. You're not going to make that human connection. And I don't think trust or any of the other items that we were talking about could come forth in that relationship. So I am a little biased, but I do think emotional intelligence plays an important role in mentoring for sure.
Mentoring for sure. Sean, let's go to you. Well, let me say something before we have the insights of Dr. Sean. We're in the program, this mentor group, they are exclusively from the mentorship program with the University of Redlands. We are a large group within this program. We have females and of course we have males. We have 150 or so. And just as a disclaimer, and to put it out there, all of us attempted to invite a female, some females as part of the participation to participate with us today. But unfortunately we weren't successful because they all had obligations and the notice was very short. So we respect both we wanted a female perspective as well. Hopefully in future sessions we have female perspectives, 2 or 3 females as well. Dr. Sean, why do we mentor? Or you say whatever you want to say, and why do we mentor? Why do you have to mentor others? What's the deal there?
So I was going to add on to what you were saying about the females that we invited. So this today is homecoming for University of Redlands. So there were females that were engaged in the homecoming activities as well. And I do want to share that that mentorship crosses over genders, because I have had some phenomenal female mentors in my life that have literally changed the course of my career. And my first career was in retail, and it was really cool product. It was for Sam Goody's Musicland.
Wow.
So yeah, I was peddling the music in that culture, and it was really fun. And a phenomenal woman, Jody Henderson Cohen, was my district manager. And she was very supportive. She gave me a lot of trust. She guided me along the way, and she was able to help me advance to my next position. And she's the reason that I am in San Diego right now, because they asked me to relocate here and take over their highest volume store and a few others. And then there's another pivotal female that I will share with you. I had entered the doors of the DoD through retail, and she was a marketing director, and we had worked together, and she had a position on her team, and she really wanted me on her team, to the point of it was the very last day of that position being open, and she and someone else came to my location and said, Sean, I don't care if you just write your name on a piece of paper and give it to HR, do it, because I want you on my team. And that opened up marketing to me, which led me back to school to finish my degree, which led me to an opportunity to work in an international environment. So all of those things were opened up by that female mentor.
So she was your mentor before. She believed in you.
Well, no, that was just a relationship, and then she became my mentor into marketing.
Okay.
So
it works.
yeah, but it's relationships.
The way you connect with others and the way you present yourself and being genuine. I think being authentic all the time really plays a part. You can't really pretend. You have to be authentic all the time. James, let's go with you. Let me ask you. We talked about mentor, also some of the characteristics of being a mentor. I want to talk about the willingness. You're willing, we are willing to be mentors. How important is the willingness of the mentee to make the relationship successful?
Well, not just the willingness, there has to be the commitment, and that has to be framed up front, so you know that it's going to be a viable, workable, and sustainable relationship. But it really starts, to me, the energy in this relationship really is fueled by the mentor. The mentee may be excited, or they may be totally disoriented and not sure where they're going to land on their feet. So, to me, the mentor is bringing that. At least that comfort, or that concept of comfort in the relationship, that, hey, I'm here to help. I'm standing on the shoulders of others, and I've seen the benefits. So that's always a conversation I have up front, is that, well, why bother? Why is mentoring so important? It's important because all of us are actually walking, and like, Dr. Sean was saying, there's someone that was a super connector in our life, or someone that filled a gap in our learning, or someone that just gave us the benefit of doubt and an opportunity that changed the trajectory of our life. And so you may not always be successful like that, but at least you come into the relationship honestly, you do an assessment, and then you decide, what resources in your tool set or tool chest that you can help them with. You were talking about women. Women, and not only women, there might be particular differences by diversity affinity group that maybe you cannot totally identify with. So normally when I take on a mentee, I also ask them, do you belong to any diversity groups or clubs or organizations? They're great mentoring facilities as well. And you need to incorporate those into your broader spectrum of mentors to really put you on the right path for success. So all of that is very important, and those are my views on that.
Well, these are good views, and you don't really play one part. You play, as a mentor, you play too many parts. Facilitator, friend, someone who brings, like what you're talking about, diversity group and elements the mentee never thought about. So you have too many roles and parts as a mentor you can play.
Yeah, just last week, it was a spouse of one of my employees reached out to me and asked if I would mentor her. Now, I have a personal policy that I don't mentor any spouses or immediate family members of people that work directly for me, because it could be considered a conflict of interest in the office. But what I did, I called up 5 people, and I got 5 people to volunteer to mentor her, and she's thrilled. And I gave her about 8 pages. She probably got overwhelmed, because that's what I do. I gave her about 8 pages of resources to help her on her track, and I told her informally I would help her, but I couldn't really sign up for that. But that's the best advertising and mentoring. You know you're doing well if people are reaching out and asking for you by name. And to me, that's like anything in business. When you're doing that in relationship building and in business, when people are coming to you and saying you have something to offer, that's the greatest form of satisfaction, is that I've been able to give them something. And the most flattering thing is when they say, I'm going to mentor now after the fact. You've created the next generation of mentors. So that's all very important.
You are a good mentor, and we vouch for that. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Sean and Tommy know that, and we know that. And lucky whoever has been mentored by you. And actually,
everyone on this panel is what I consider next level mentors.
Exactly.
Yes, wonderful.
Tommy, let me go to you. You are writing for Forbes, and I do have an article, 7 Secrets How to Be the Best Mentor or the Great Mentor. I had that article published a while back, and in it I talk about passion and purpose. How important is purpose while mentoring your mentees?
Yeah, I think purpose is extremely important. I think individually as a mentor, I think you have to understand what your purpose is for wanting to mentor. And I think it really starts with that, right? If you come from a pure place where you really want to give back things that you've gained throughout your experience, I think that's where it really starts. But it also is on the other end, on the mentee side, right? The purpose there. I think, at the University of Redlands, we're all mentoring people that actually signed up to be mentored, right? And so there is that expectation that collaboration and that mentorship would take place. Therefore, there could be some accountability there. In the work environment, it's a little bit more of a passive mentor, so to speak, right? Especially when you're dealing with employees. They didn't necessarily sign up to be mentored by you, but as your leader, right, that mentoring interaction is constantly taking place. So I do think it kind of depends on, the environment and the situation, but, that place that you come from really has to come from purity, right? I really look at employees or look at mentees, and I think all of us could say the same thing. I think there's a genuine desire to provide whatever that tool is necessary for that person. And the joy that you get out of mentoring is seeing that tool operate in the function that you intended it to operate, right? And I think that's the joy of mentoring. So I think from a personal standpoint, it really needs to come from a place of pureness where you really desire to help. And then obviously on the interaction that takes place with that mentee, that their ability to receive that and then understand that it's coming from a pure place, and then seeing those tools that are going back and forth operating in a real way is, I think that's what makes it exciting for me and why I come back every year. I really enjoy that interaction and really enjoy seeing, a positive outcome from that process.
I like that. It's very nicely said. Sean, Tommy talked about during the mentoring experience without regards to who is this individual. meaning we suspend our judgment to the race, religion, background, orientation, all of that things. Where does that come from? If we don't have it, how do you build it?
I think that, as I said before, I can only kind of speak from my experience, is that
Yes.
It takes a little bit of time for each of us to really understand who we are, and I'll tap into what Jim said as far as that self-trust that we develop. And it taps into what Tommy was saying also, is understanding ourselves emotionally as well. And I'm certain that each of us have evolved through our professional career, and even with personal relationships, where when we were younger, we felt that we had to maybe fit into a certain mold or a certain position or portray something specific. And I know I've gone through several careers where I've kind of had to do that. Being being a gay Black man working for the Department of Defense was kind of exhausting sometimes. But being our authentic selves with those that we work with, just, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. I really care about you. And I do this in the classroom as well. I am most valuable to other individuals giving them myself and kind of initiating that trust as well, and being authentic. And I think that when others see that, hopefully it will save them from like a couple of decades of trying to fit into a mold, and understanding the value that they bring as individuals and their authentic self to whatever the situation is.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned something about, I wasn't going to go there, but do you actually tell people who you are? Especially students, do you have to?
I just am. If someone asks me a question, and it's
ask you, but do you
to,
volunteer? Do you volunteer? Hey, I am an MBA student. I am this. I am that. Or do you volunteer these things, or?
Oh, I let them at the beginning of the course. We do a getting to know you, and within that getting to know you, I also include that I identify as he. Personal pronouns are he and his, which are but. I also share that I was in their chair before as a student.
Yes.
I share a little bit about my career path, and that's pretty much about it. At some point, a student may or may not speak about their home life or whatever, and if I speak about it, I'll speak about my spouse, and if a conversation comes up with a his or hers or whatever, I say his, or I'll say my spouse Peter, blah 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 blah. Because it's creating a safe space, and if I'm not displaying my comfort in being in that safe space, how can I expect them to display their comfort being in that safe space?
You expect transparency from both parties.
I try to encourage it, and I think that the students value it. And I know that it's, especially with the University of Redlands, we're founded in liberal arts. And I recently attended a faculty development conference where I was kind of surprised that some of the instructors found it challenging to navigate some difficult conversations in the classroom. And the reality is that if we can't create a safe space in these classrooms, because this is a point where students are supposed to be learning. Same thing with a mentor-mentee relationship. This is where they're supposed to learn. This is where they're supposed to be able to feel safe. This is where they're supposed to be able to stumble if they need to. And we had conversations directly after that first presidential debate within our global political economy classroom. And I'm very grateful that the students felt comfortable enough, and I received comments for thank you for creating a safe space
Good.
to talk about some of those hard issues that were dodged during that presidential debate, to include um, uh, the request for President Trump to disavow white supremacist organizations. We had some conversations, and the students were very respectful of each other and how they presented their positions. And I thought that was the ultimate compliment that a student could give. And I think that that's important in relationships. And I probably have gone off tangent, which is what I wind up doing. So there you go.
No, excellent, excellent. James, how do we maintain the safe space? I know we're almost within time, but how do you maintain the safe space, and how important is maintaining or creating a safe space, whether for students or a mentee? Because within the mentee-mentor agreement, we have a confidentiality or confidentiality between the parties. Whatever we reveal or they reveal to us is kept confidential. But how important, that's within the agreement, but within a student, how important is this to create?
Agree. You know, when you're talking about mentoring, even there is a, you know, there could be a difference there when you're talking about informal and formal. Sure, when it's a formal agreement, there's some rules of the road there, but even people in my office, I'm certified in executive acquisition, and the people under me all have acquisition certification. Part of that continuous learning, there's things that they have to check off. And when I tell them mentoring is one of those that they can get some points for continuous learning, I advise them of that there's still the same protocols for respecting people and the integrity. So in the classroom, you know, like just like Sean was saying, during those opening comments when we go around the room, and then, you know, the professor needs to give some type of bio to build trust and confidence as a leader of the group, as a facilitator, but also you want to say that this is a non-attribution academic environment. That's always a healthy part of my leading discussions, and that that everything happens in the classroom stays in the classroom. If they want to write a paper about a particular subject that Dr. Sean just referenced, that may be considered, you know, a hot topic, I tell them go for it. And as long as they can defend their argument, come up with good resources and justifications, they will get graded appropriately. I encourage them to do that because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to be able to, it's about critical thinking, thinking outside the box, getting a broader perspective. That's all part of the growth process. So it's very important to set that tone. I do that in my office. When people come to sit down with me, I usually lock them up for several days in my office. They hate that before I release them to get to their to-do list. And these are the things I really impose on them, is that number one, you know, never lie. Number two, give the respect and dignity that everyone deserves. That is number one and number two rules here. And then I said everything else, you know, we'll go through that in the next couple of days, but it all starts with respecting every human being and their right to speak, their right to be here, their right to grow, their right to succeed, their right to be alongside you in this journey we're all on. That is so important.
So that's an inclusive environment you're talking about. You're talking about inclusivity, or including everyone involved.
Yes, I think they're very closely associated. I don't think you can have one conversation without the other. So those things for me, I know, you know, Dr. Sean has had some experiences in DoD, and believe me, when I do my memory jogger and date back, I know exactly where he's coming from. I've had people come to me and want to work for me because they say, look, I respect your environment. It's inclusive. You have the people that work with you look like a representation of society. It looks like the proper representation. And so those things are important. People are watching that, and people, especially you're talking to anyone that's that has any view on the political science of this current world we're living in. They expect it. And if they don't get it from you, they'll go somewhere where they can be in that type of welcoming, nurturing, and respectful environment.
Because the alternative does exist now. They can easily go anywhere they want.
Absolutely.
So it's very true.
Absolutely.
I think we covered most of the questions we need to cover. Tommy, what do you want to add? What else do you want to add to this?
I think it really ties back to empathy. That environment that you're trying to create, whether it's in a classroom, whether it's in a work environment, really comes from that element of empathy. You can't have empathy if you're not inclusive, right? Those just don't, it's impossible, right? And so that inclusive environment where everyone feels very comfortable to be exactly who they are is so crucial to build really true relationships and collaboration. If not, when people feel like they have to hold back, then you'll never get the whole of that person, right? So there's always going to be that gap. And as a leader, you'll see it on your team. As a mentor, you'll see it in your mentee. If they don't feel like they could be exactly who they are, then I don't think you've really done your job as a mentor in order to create that inclusive environment. So I don't want to add something just to add something. I think what they said was beautiful and it was right on target.
And your add-ons also very helpful and insightful. So I'm going to give each one of you 30 seconds to whatever you want to end it with. Sean, let's go with you. That's your call, whatever you want to say.
I really appreciate being able to spend some time with the three of you. It's been an outstanding conversation, and I get that all warm fuzzy inside now to finish the rest of my day. So thank you. And for those that are listening, I hope that we've been able to allow you to see maybe a different side of the mentor relationship, so that you could get a different perspective. Thank you. It's been an honor, gentlemen.
James?
Yes, first of all, I want to say it has been an honor to be on this panel with my esteemed colleagues. One thing I would like to say, like we said earlier, if anyone is watching this and has any interest in mentoring, they have the desire, they may not feel, maybe they don't feel they're qualified to do it, reach out and find someone that will help you become a mentor, or just, it's kind of like we talked about emotional intelligence. Some of these things are skills you develop over time, but if you have the desire and you have something to offer, I would like you to take that leap of faith here and go ahead and help others pay forward. And also I'd like to add, now more than ever, and like you said, in these uncertain times we're in, the power of believing in another person is so important. Let that mentee know more now than ever that they have great talent, unlimited potential, and you're just one of those people that are going to help them, be able to find that space that will really make them happy and give them some of those tools that can help them be successful in life.
Very nice. Tommy?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Dr. Abe, and it was a pleasure being with all of you. You're all good friends, and I can't wait to see you all face to face again, hopefully in the near future. But just to piggyback off of what Dr. Sean and Jim have already mentioned, mentorship I think is needed today more than any other time, at least in my life, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of things culturally that are changing within the US. And as a young person trying to navigate all these different things that I didn't have to navigate when I grew up, I feel like they need someone to be able to talk to, and that's where mentorship comes in. That ability to be able to understand where that person's currently at, and then just be an ear. Listening is such a big part of mentoring. A lot of times I think people think as a mentor, you have to constantly provide information to your mentee. And I will tell you, listening, I think, is much more important than that, or you're going to be providing, just doctrine. What people want is a real person that they could speak to, that could understand where they're currently at in life. And then obviously direction is a part of that. But I thoroughly enjoyed the time with all of you, and feel very blessed to have experienced it.
Likewise, definitely listening and be part of the mentoring experience. Because what does a mentor do to you really is, I'm talking to the audience here, the mentor will shorten the experience you will spend learning things. He or she will bring the experience to you, they will guide you through it, and they will be a helpful instrument for you to succeed and prosper without spending the time that you can gain from an experience. So I do thank you. I thank all of you. Nice to see you again. We'll keep in touch. We're always keeping in touch, but we'll keep in touch more and more. Thank you so much. I'm heading back to the Redlands just as a point of reference. when we scheduled this one, Redlands did not release the timing yet, as of yet. So the schedule conflicted, but we're gonna probably all of us head to the homecoming now. All right. So have a pleasant rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.